What's up, ladies and gentlemen? In this video I'm going to be making a Bowie knife from 52-100 steel. That steel is very well known for being high in toughness as well as edge retention for a forging steel. To start forging, I just tried to kind of get the tip to a more tip shape. I was planning on cutting out most of it, but I did want to forge a good portion of it. Here I'm comparing it to my EDC knife that's made in ABL. I tried to get the blade a roughly similar shape, but a little bit on the thinner side compared to my other knife. And here I'm trying to cut in a bit of a bevel. Now usually you don't completely forge a bevel, I mean that's pretty impossible to do, but you do want to get as close as possible to the finish so that it's a lot easier to grind. One of the advantages of forging a knife is you usually don't need to grind as much, which means you save money on grinder belts. When I'm done forging it, I put it in an ashtray, and what that does is, through some kind of steel thing that I don't really understand or care to explain, I'll link a website or whatever. It normalizes the steel, which makes it easier to grind and gets it in the right chemicals, I don't know if the chemicals are the right word, chemical structure to quench. Now I'm cutting out the tip with the angle grinder. As you can see, there's not very much to cut out, but it still makes it look a lot nicer if I cut it out with the angle grinder. But I still like to cut it out because I control exactly where the tip goes a lot easier with an angle grinder. I like to use an angle grinder for this part and not the belt grinder because it could waste a lot of grinder belts if you're using it for everything. It's good to use the angle grinder for a lot of the rough stuff because that's what the angle grinder is better at. There's the completed rough grind. Now I move on to making the handle. I decided to go with the full tang because that's the most durable and it also has the least forging, which I was kind of low on propane when I was making this video. Now I move on to cleaning up the whole project on the belt sander. I use this special wheel on the belt sander to create a nice divot in the handle for where your pointer finger would go. All right, there we go. I'm done with the bevels. Just did a basic hollow grind on it. It's not perfect, but this is before the quench, so I'll have time to clean it up later. Next up, I'm going to drill the holes, and then I'll quench it tomorrow, hopefully. Now what I'm going to do to try and get the holes to line up perfectly is, I don't know how well you can see. I didn't do a very good job of drawing where the holes are supposed to go, which is pretty normal. I mean, it's very hard to get exactly with a permanent marker. So what I'm gonna do is use the laser on this drill press. If you don't have a laser, so sad. And I'm gonna try and line it up where I'm gonna drill my next hole so that both the holes line up perfectly, or all the holes rather. Now it's all set to get quenched tomorrow. Quenching, I use this pottery kiln. It gets to the right temperature and it holds it, which is really nice. Basically the same experience as using a heat treating oven. It's not that hard to use a forge for this steel though. I just like the kiln because it gets it to an exact temperature. Now, to prevent any possible warps, put it in between these things. Which normally when I'm quenching stainless steel, since stainless steel is air hardening, I would just need to put the knife in these. I wouldn't even need to use the oil. But with this, I'm just going to use these to make sure the blade comes out straight. After quenching it, I put it in the freezer and then subsequently in the oven. I repeat this process like 2 times. The oven part is called tempering and the freezer part is called cryo. What that does is it just gets the microstructure of the steel into the perfect place for whatever task you're going to use it for. Here's the knife after I cleaned off the bevels. Next up, I'm going to clean up the handle. There's not really much to do cleaning up the handle. It still does look good if you put a little bit more of a polish into it. Next up, I'm going to be making the guard. Now, at first, I tried to use this door handle, but as you can see, it didn't quite turn out very well. It did seem like a really good idea at the time, because it would look really cool, and it's some very thick brass or copper, whatever it is, but it did not turn out very well, as we'll see in a second. Here, I used the torch to heat up the brass so that I could try and cut through it with a chisel, because I didn't really want to file the whole thing because I knew it would take forever. But that's kind of where I messed up because it cracked. So instead, I used this piece of brass that I had laying around, and I just had to file it the old-fashioned way. And here's the fitted guard. It looks pretty good. Now I just need to grind the guard into a better shape, because just having a basic rectangle on your knife is not very cool. Here's the final shape of the guard with it fitted on the knife. It looks really good. I'm really happy with how this one turned out. Next up, I hand polished the bevels. I forgot to mention it earlier, but I decided to leave the scale on the knife because I thought it looks pretty cool. That's another thing that you can't really do with stock removal. You can only do that if you forge the knife. And here I'm cutting out the wood for the handle. I decided to use oak from my property because that's what I've used for wooden handles the most. I don't really have very much experience with the other woods that I have laying around, so I don't know if they'd make a good handle or not. I gave the blade an extra polish with some finer grits off camera, so there's the final polish of the blade. After that, I cleaned up the pieces of wood on my belt sander. The goal here was to get the pieces as flat as possible so that they fit on the blade nice and well. Then I drilled the holes with my drill press onto the wood. And the trick here is whenever you make a hole to put the pin in the handle and the wood so you don't lose track of where you are with the drill press and then mess up your whole knife because it won't fit together. Here's the knife with everything fitted together. As you can see, there's a little bit of space between the handle and the guard. I added a leather spacer afterwards though to make up for that. Here I'm gluing all the pieces together. I used 5-minute hardening epoxy. It works pretty well, used in the past. I haven't really used anything else. And then I put it in my vise and clamped it all together so that it could dry. Just realized something a little unfortunate. I meant to hand polish the guard before I put it on the handle, before I put the whole thing together, but I forgot to do that, so it's going to be kind of tricky to polish the guard without messing up the blade. But whatever, I think I'm up to the challenge. Here I'm hand polishing the handle. I like to do it because it gives it a lot nicer look than just the grinder, and it also makes the finish look a lot nicer. After that, I started polishing the guard. I put a little tape on the blade to make sure I didn't mess it up when I was polishing the guard. And yeah, it actually worked pretty well. I didn't mess it up at all, and the guard actually looked really nice afterwards. And here's the finished knife. If you want this knife, you can check out my Etsy shop. It's for sale there. I'll have it linked in the description. If you don't like this knife though, feel free to request a custom order. I can also do that, make your knife for you specifically. And anyways, thanks for watching, and I'll see you all in the next one.